Boa noite.
Good
Bem-vindos à nossa
evening.
fala
Welcome
sobre
to our live.
uma cultura de arquitetura.
We're going
Eu
to
sou Laís
talk
Petra,
about the
eu
culture
sou
of
arquiteta
architecture.
e urbana
I'm Lais
planejadora da Universidade
Petra.
Federal
I'm
do
an
Brasil
architect and
e
urban planner,
fiz o meu mestrado na Universidade de
and
Brasília no
I've
concurso
worked
de projetos
doing my
internacionais da
master's in
FAP.
the University of
Também sou
Brasilia,
presidente regional centro-oeste do Instituto de Arquitetos do Brasil e participo da comissão de concursos do Conselho Superior
and I'm
do
part of the
Eu sou
Institute
muito
of the
participante de concursos
University of
e também,
Brasilia,
quando o tempo
and
permite,
sometimes
participo
when
também.
I also part of
Hoje,
some competitions.
na nossa live, a gente vai falar um pouco
Today in our
sobre
lives, we're
a
going to
cultura
talk
de
about the
arquitetura na
practice
Suíça e no Brasil.
in
A gente vai
Switzerland,
colocar um
and
pouco em português e inglês, com tradução
the
simultânea para as duas
we'll
línguas.
have a
Mais tarde,
simultaneous translation
os
to
apresentadores
Portuguese and
vão
English,
falar
which
sobre
will
a
be the language
proposta de
spoken
agora,
in
dia
this
20 de janeiro,
uh,
do novo
in
Rudolf
this
Suisse
panel.
e
So we'll have
Leonardo Machado,
Rudolf
excelente
Suisse, Eliardo
professor e
Machado,
selecionador
Executive
internacional suicessos no
Director.
Brasil.
Pode lançar o vídeo, por
Tá
favor.
pronto, viu?
Acho que tem um problema com o vídeo.
Isso. Só pessoal da produção, vocês acham que o vídeo vai rodar?
You think we'll have the video here?
Esse concurso suíço é uma excelente forma de apresentar
This is an excellent way to present professionals of architecture and also the interested audience for this World Congress of Architects in Rio. In several stages. So in Switzerland, it is used in civil construction. These procedures so we have these projects and we have to look at them in a positive way, and in this process that allow a development that is innovative and sustainable of the urban areas and cities in Switzerland. For me, in the General Consulate of Switzerland in Rio, it's a great honor to support this exhibit, and I'd like to congratulate Ms. Olivia Oliveira for the excellent initiative of presenting this exhibit, the Swiss competition of architects in Rio.
Muito bem. Agora nós vamos.
Very well. Now we're going to watch the video with Leonardo Machado, Executive Director of Social Media, Social Network in Brazil. Good evening, everyone. I'm João Paulo Quintela. I'm responsible for the América do Sul program in Brazil, so it's a great pleasure to collaborate with this World Architect Congress. We share ideas and needs with dialogues with culture and society. We have projects as the Swiss competition, and we have this project which is very interesting with the architectonical practices that is very important. I'm really glad to support this part of the Congress, and I hope that the debates that we have here really can contribute for the future. Now I'm going to present our guests. First, Jodok Brunner. He was graduated in architecture in Switzerland, and he worked as an architect in New York, Paris, Amsterdam, Bangalore, and for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Africa before he works in the federal office in Berlin. He belongs to the Swiss Federation. So this group has 600 buildings around the world, mainly embassies and official residencies.
O nosso segundo convidado é o
Our
Francisco.
second guest is Francisco de la Casa. He's an architect, architecture critic, and he's works in. He's been working in Geneva since 2011. He says that the role of the canon architect is to promote quality and of the areas of Geneva. After graduating in the Fine Arts School in Geneva, he began his professional life restoring monuments, graduated from the École Polytechnique de Lausanne, and he started working as an architecture critic for several Swiss magazines. He has published several books, and since 2008, he's been working in a French magazine. Next, Elisabeth France. She's an architect. She's a PhD and working in slum urbanization. She's the executive secretary of the habitational secretary of the city of São Paulo. She teaches in the institution Armando Penteado and the São Paulo University. Since from 2005 to 2012, she worked as the Secretary of Habitation in São Paulo. She coordinated the main habitational programs of the Secretary. During this time, more than 360,000 families were benefited from her coordination. Since the year 2000, she has been working in consulting with the World Bank, Development Inter-American Bank, and with designs developed in more than 14 countries. She has published more than 20 books. She also coordinates the scientific committee of the 27th World Architect Congress. Our next guest is Olivia de Oliveira. She's curator of the Swiss exhibit. She was graduated by the Bahia University, Federal Bahia University, and she also studied in Barcelona, and she has been part of many competitions. She has been working in Lausanne as well in different areas. She has published several essays, articles, and books. Among several academic activities, she was an assistant professor in the Federal Polytechnical School in Lausanne, and also in the Architecture and Urban Planning University. And our guest who's going to present this is the architect Nivaldo Andrade. He's an architect, master's, and has a doctorate from the Federal University of Bahia. He has studied in Paris, and he also has an associate professor at Federal University of Bahia. He was the national president of the Institute of Architects of Brazil, executive secretary of the Federal South American Federation of Architects. Also, he works at IFAN and coordinates the National Forum of Brazilian Cultural Heritage. Has been part of. He has been a jury of several competitions. In 2019, he has published the collection Modern Architecture of Bahia with 5 volumes. Now he is vice president of the IAB for this Congress issues. So Nivaldo, you'll have the floor. Good evening, Nivaldo. How are you? Hello, Lais. How are you? Good evening, everyone who is watching us. For me, this panel has a very special meaning because we began creating this exhibit with invited Olivia and Sergio to start thinking about this exhibit some years ago, because we thought that the Congress in Rio could bring together several exhibits and things that other countries could bring. So the group that is organizing the Congress has been doing a lot of contacts. One of the issues that seem to be important is to use the visibility that architecture could have, gathering so many architects at the same time, to bring in the national agenda some things, some items of architecture that are really important for the architects, and the contests are really important. And AIB creates a lot of contests, but some of them have a great visibility. For the Studio 41 was really launched recently. So the idea was to ask our colleagues from Switzerland how these contests or competitions happen in Switzerland, because they have a lot of public contests. And for the Brazilian law, this is the way that architecture design should be hired by the public powers. And UNESCO suggests that this contest should be happening. In Brazil, we have very few, but we wanted to learn from the Swiss experience to show our politicians and society that we could build a new legislation based on that. So we wanted to invite Olivia and Sergio. So we have all words with. So we have a Brazilian architect and. Sorry, I was muted here. So we have this architect couple that has been working for a long time in Switzerland, and they've really has won a lot of contests in Switzerland. So we've invited them. They created an association for this, and they created this beautiful exhibit, Concours Suisse, and we invite Le Concours Suisse.ch, which is Switzerland's domain, and it should be inaugurated in June here in Rio, but we decided here at the IAB to postpone this for next year, when everyone will be able to visit it presentially. So, and this exhibit can be taken to other cities as well. So I'd like to thank so much Olivia, Sergio, and everyone who's involved in this panel, because for also creating this exhibit that will become a reference for so many here in Brazil. Good evening, Nivaldo. Now we'll pass on the microphone for Olivia. Olivia, you have the floor.
Obrigada. Estão me ouvindo?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, Nivaldo, for the introduction, and thank you, Rodolfo, the Swiss Consulate, Joaquitela, Leonardo Machado, all the team from Swiss Next. We had a video to play from the Swiss Next, but we really had a huge support for a whole year, more than a year, since Nivaldo invited us, especially a support from the council and Swiss Next. So I'd like the production to play this video. It's just a 1-minute video, and then I'll carry on. Thank you. Hello, I'm Leonardo Machado, director of Swiss Next in Brazil, based in Rio, which is a world-renowned city for its cultural heritage, and it's also renowned for its tradition in architecture. That's why Swiss Next, that has a tradition to bring closer this collaboration between Switzerland and Brazil. We are very happy to be part of this initiative, this debate that seeks to raise an awareness and reflection on our cities and how do we live and how to include the society and humankind in urban planning and in the organization of architectural design. So on behalf of Swiss Next Brazil, I'd like to congratulate you all, and we're anxious, looking forward for the exhibit. Thank you. I'm really glad to have this opportunity of gathering excellent professionals and also your patience for all this organization to promote this architectural contest, which is the theme of this exhibit. It's very important for us when we think about this professional practice because of the multiple possibilities that the contest can provide in terms of going beyond our borders. With the delay of the Congress, we decided to launch this exhibit in terms of all the logistics, and we have all the representatives here for the next year. But it was lucky because when 2021 we saw that it didn't allow us to bring the exhibit to Brazil, we managed to react quickly, and from the physical exhibit we could create a virtual visit, and we're going to show you here and I'm going to show you a video while I talk, showing the overview of the exhibit. And I say we because it's a collective work. It has been a team effort with this association of non-profitable organization of this Swiss contest. So it's important for us to have this democratic so the exhibit was created in an accessible and very simple way, and it brings the essential 20 stages of a contest in Switzerland, bringing equality for the success and how this exemplary organization and the success of the contest. It also brings a great database and brings essential stages, and this database is with different supports, maquettes, videos and publications that will bring value to this contest to show this the importance of a public contest in Switzerland. It exists for more than for many years for all kinds of programs. It's a practice that is renowned, worldly renowned. Sorry, the music is overlapping the voice.
Tendo como critério a diversidade de tipos de concursos, de lugares, de programas.
So we have different kinds of contests and the winning bureaus, so it's important to bring the importance of this kind of contest. So you can have an interactive map. You can see different kinds of areas, and we can see the result of this contest that happened in the last 5 years in Switzerland. In Switzerland, the contest is a way of access to it. Our colleagues can talk about it. So the professional, they know that they will be able to create that design, and they can show us some designs that was created by the Canton of Geneva. The exhibit also shows the participation in terms of contest juries. We have also this partnership between the private and public powers. it's important to say that this can be accessed in a tour, online tour. It's not this video, it's a 3D tour that will be available in this Congress platform until August 21st. I also invite you to watch the video that was created for the Congress with a testimony of more than 20 Swiss architects talking about the importance of contests in their lives. Thank you so much, and I'll pass the floor to our colleagues. Thank you, Olivia.
Será que a gente vai passar o vídeo de novo
So,
agora?
should we show the video again?
Não, a gente pode passar a palavra.
No needed. We can just pass on the. Okay, we could watch it properly.
Acho que a palavra é com você, Francisco.
Now it's Francisco, you have the floor.
Sí. Buenas noches a todas y todos. Gracias para la
Good
invitación.
evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm going to share
El esquermo.
my screen here.
Espero que
I hope.
está bien para todos.
Is it okay for everyone?
Sim, estão conseguindo acompanhar, sim.
Yes, we can see it.
Bueno,
Well,
me presento en breve. Estoy arquitecto del estado.
I'm a state architect from the Canton of Genève, which is a very small city with less than 500 people, and it has an important reputation, international reputation, and it has this architectonical importance from many centuries ago. And we have created this cantonal architect to develop the urbanistic quality of the canton. So the only way to access that is the engineering works or architectural design or landscaping designs to reach new variants, new variables to obtain the design. So it's important to have the design of the project that has the highest quality. And this Swiss contest has a long-term traditions. It comes since mid-19th century. And we have three different groups involved. First of all, we have the contractor, the contractor, and you can have you can have an investment. You can say that he has a lot to say in the work. But there are a lot of possibilities in the project in terms of quality and price. So the interest of different professionals, architects, engineers, or landscapers, they can start working with this public works. So they have the access of young professionals also. This is very important in Switzerland. architects and engineers are really motivated to take part in this contest. And it's a very important decision. And third, that's something that is not much talked about. It's the public interest. The interest is that the quality of the production of those buildings have a lot of quality, it's innovative, and have some diversity. And this is what really interests me. Sorry. So, quality, and diversity. So we need to analyze results. So we have a contest monitoring, not all of them, but most of them, of the contests that were made in Geneva for the last 10 years. And what's really interesting, that more than 10% of the participants are really private contractors. They have different kinds of they work in different parts of the market. So I'm going to show this monitoring. So these are goals that really were reached. We can see if these are not public buildings. But they're also social housing buildings and represents more than 5 to 40%, so more than 45%. And the geographic classification, it's not only for Switzerland, but the whole of Europe. So the laureates are not always the same. There's statistics, we can see these statistics. So we can see this statistics, more than 40% are social housing, which is very curious in Geneva, because this contest is not only for huge buildings or state monuments in which people, but it's for where people live as well. It's a public space where people live. Also, the most important. So it's the parks, natural spaces that are shared spaces where people really meet. In terms of the other thing is urbanism, which is the most important when you have the scale to decide the strategies of development of an area that is very small. Geneva is very small, very limited, and you can say that this development is very much studied.
Well, the classic ones are the schools. We also have contests for tram lines, tram routes, etc. The cultural influence of other professionals apart from Geneva. Of course, the majority are from offices in Geneva, this is just natural because people are familiar with the context. They are familiar with the regulation committees, also cultural conditions. But we see that just short of half are from other cantons. Almost 1/4 of winners from Switzerland, Portugal, France, and Luxembourg. And it should be mentioned that diverse cultures in terms of architecture can enrich the building construction of the Geneva canton. And well, what equity, the contest can, everyone can win a contest. So this is a very sensitive topic, because some people say, well, you always have the same people winning the large offices. We have a 58% of unique winners, of single winners in the Olympic Games. You have people who win the 100-meter event, and others will win other events. Some people have won 6 contests, some people have won 5 contests, some people have won 4 contests, and 6 among them have won 4 contests. In total, there are 71 offices that have won a certain percentage. The perfect allocation would be 100%, but you have an allocation of both public and private contracts. So we have to consider, you have to break down data by candidate, by university, and we need to have balanced access to the market. Okay, I'll just stop here. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this very unique Swiss feature, because we've had lots of discussions with other countries who do not understand this competition. The fact that many offices put a lot of effort into it, and then they fail to win. On average, there are 50 entrants in each contest. For example, other countries in Europe simply cannot understand. It's a waste of money, time, but we should say that the final quality for the public is something amazing. It's an amazing opportunity for Switzerland to put up contests. So thank you. I'm sorry for my broken Spanish. Oh, very good. A great presentation. It's good to see that data. It's important for us to see how housing is important in the contests. So this should be the subject of not only grant buildings, but the social housing as well. So now I'll hand the floor to Elizabeth França. Hi, Laís. How are you? First of all, thank you for the invite, Nivaldo, Olivia, our colleagues from Switzerland, and I believe it's a great opportunity to have this discussion at the Congress about contests. First of all, we are always very happy to hear about the international experience, and as Francesco uh, just presented, we have this significant number of construction works being contracted on the basis of contests. I think that architects should be quite happy with those opportunities, even if even considering all the time, all the effort put into it by the offices, and some will not win. Well, anyway, you do have opportunities. So I'll speak a few words about the experience of Brazil. We have a culture of so the Pesto Brazil Institute has been working on this so that at a minimum the public construction projects should be hired through contests, because the public legislation for procurement processes, although contests are allowed, they do not encourage them to have an entire culture that contests are problematic. They take long, which is not true. We've had some important experiences in Brazil. Well, just speak a little bit about large scale contests. Since 1990s, I think that the major housing programs in Brazil, they had contests as an addition to them. So since the 1990s, we have had major contests for the development, the qualification of favelas. It's recognized as one of the most important. It's a contest conducted by our colleague Sérgio Magalhães, one of the most important ones in Rio de Janeiro. So the idea was to have proposals for the urbanizations of all major favelas in Rio. So this really materialized. So a small bit of it was implemented. So I think we learned quite a lot with this contest. We describe it as the grandfather of all contests. And then Rio held the Morar Carioca, also for social housing and the urbanization of favelas at a large scale in Rio. And here in São Paulo in 2011, just building up on all those lessons learned, we realized that it would be important to hold a public contest for the procurement of projects for our favela urbanization program. So it was a huge contest. Of course, here we cannot compare this with European contests, but back then we hired 17 architecture offices, and those offices designed something like housing units for 500,000 families. I mean, low-income families. They are still low income, and those architects, so they designed. So the idea was to have an integrated action, bringing together urbanization of favelas, the development of housing units with such high coverage, where so some areas in the city of São Paulo were chosen. I think it was a great example. Unfortunately, the projects were contracted, they were developed, but given the changes in administration in Brazil that are so common in Brazil, so it went it was not implemented. And Laísa can speak a few words about other examples of social housing and the urban issues based on the hiring of all architecture offices on the basis of contests. I think that the IAB Brasilia also held a sustainable housing contest together with the German Cooperation Agency, GIZ. We have a partnership here in São Paulo. I was a juror for that. They always bring up great ideas, great projects. So hopefully these will be implemented. These are projects that are available to the housing enterprises, co-ops. I believe that this exchange of experiences with Switzerland that has advanced legislation, this will be a very rich opportunity for us in Brazil, and especially for government managers, and it will be a great incentive for us to interact with our senior officials to use contests as the best option for architecture projects. I would like to congratulate everyone involved. As Nivaldo said, this has been underway for a while now, and we are sure that the exhibit this year will be quite successful. Hopefully, we can have an on-site exhibit in 2022. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, we really look forward to the exhibit. I can hardly wait until I can see the exhibit live. So I think we can postpone it a little bit more. We can push it back a bit more so that we can have it. So very interesting your experience, and also with the GIZ. So hopefully this can be implemented, but now we just have to wait for the exhibit. So it will be a big leap for Brazil, would be if contests were finally deployed, and so that if we could have a more seamless transition between administrations, so that the upcoming administrations can build on the previous administrations. So now let's send the floor to our third guest. He will speak a few words about contests for Swiss embassies. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. I hope you can hear me. I will just also have a few things to present. I will just now present my screen. I hope you can see it. Yes, so I'm working for the Federal Office of Building and Logistics in Switzerland, Bern, and basically it's the federal government. And so we build all the public buildings for the Swiss government. And today I will especially show you a little bit the buildings abroad and what we do there. And there also we always use the tool from the architectural competitions to do it. But first I would like to go a little bit back in history and to show you how all this competition got where we are now today. So for the history of architectural competitions, it's a long way back. First we had in Athens already before Christ, 500 before Christ, architectural competitions. We had also the cathedrals in the Middle Ages, in the Renaissance, the Spanish Steps, for instance, the dome of the Florence Cathedral, where the competition was won by Brunelleschi. But the competition got only really institutionalized in the 19th century, mainly. And the first place where it got institutionalized was in England. And in the 19th century, they organized more than 2,500 competitions over 5 decades. And with over 300 competitions only in London. And then later on in 1867, the German started some regulation for competition, which were introduced there. And Switzerland basically copied the German regulations. And 10 years later, in 1877, at that time, it was also the start of the Swiss state, the Swiss government, and they needed some public buildings. And that was the start of the regulation. But maybe at that time, the competitions were not always so transparent. It was not always the winner of the competition who would then build get the commissions. There were still a lot of politics involved. But that was really the start of the building competition culture in Switzerland. And this
Excuse me.
got really, yes?
Second, I think your screen has stopped. Acho que a tela dele
sorry.
travou. Será que estava algum problema? Can you share your screen again?
Não, Laísa,
Okay.
a tela não está aparecendo.
So the screen's not showing. We cannot see your screen. So maybe you can unshare and share again.
Can you see my screen again?
I can see your PowerPoint right now. I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yes, and so if you want, all this competition got a big stop with the outbreak of World War I, and then for a long time there were no more competitions in Switzerland, and it's only many years later that it picked up. And now I will show you a little bit with the buildings abroad how it worked. One of the big first commissions to build an embassy abroad was the Swiss embassy in New Delhi in India in 1957, but still at that time it was a direct commission. There was still no competition. It was mainly the competition was given to one of the main architects in Switzerland at that time, who was very famous, and it was a direct commission. And then it was only in the 90s that the competition culture picked up again. There was a new legislation in Switzerland, and there was also the new rules of public tendering by the World Trade Organization. And at that time, for instance, through a competition, we had the new Swiss embassy in Berlin, which was a two-stage competition. So with this kind of competition, you still had kind of visibility who would really won the competition, as it is still not completely open. During the 90s, we also had a competition in Washington for the new residence there, and it was won by an American architect, Stephen Hall. And it's only now in the last decade, in the 2010s, that we really completely opened our competition culture, where it was really open and everybody could participate, also from abroad. In most of our competition, we had like 20% of the entries which are from other countries, and you can see we have always entries between 70 up to 140 different entries. And I will show you a few examples. One of the first ones we did in the last decade was for the new embassy in Nairobi. We had there something like 94 entries, and I think 1/3 of the entries were foreign entries. Maybe just two things I would like to pinpoint, which are very important for us, is the jury. It's always extremely important to get a good jury, a high quality jury, and also to limit it in the numbers. There should not be too many numbers. Here in Nairobi we had 9 jury members, and we try even to have less. More and more. And also extremely important is the jury report, where it has to be also extremely transparent with criterias, and also to honor all the work. Another one we did recently was in Addis Ababa in 2018. It was again an open competition, and here it was a very young team who won that contest. And the tool from the competition, when it's especially open, is also it allowed for many young architects to launch their career. Here in this case, this architect had almost no experience, but they could win this, and it really allows them to launch their career. But this also is a kind of a risk-taking from our part. And the last one I want to show you is the competition we did for the new embassy in Seoul, in South Korea. And here, what is also very particular, we had in this urban fabric with these high-rise buildings through Seoul, and the entry which won took over traditional typology of South Korea, the traditional hanok. And this competition and this building also launched a big debate in South Korea and about the identity of South Korea. And it was very, very interesting that as an embassy project we could launch this debate. And this project got also many awards within South Korea. And here again, I mean, the main results of the added value of these competitions is this very high quality product we have at the end. And we are building a high quality built environment. And we still have also in Switzerland, and also politicians and also in the public, still people criticizing this and thinking, okay, it's too much money, too much efforts to do a competition. And we still have to strengthen the competition as an institution. And for this, we had in 2018, there was a big meeting of all the ministers of culture from Europe in Davos, and they launched a paper, the Davos Declaration, which is a paper which defines somehow what is high quality building culture or Baukultur. And this really helps us now also to legitimize the competition as a tool to really improve our built environment and to strengthen it. And in the future, also something which is very important would be that also all the private investor would more use this kind of tools. Thank you.
Muito obrigada. Thank you so much, Yodok. Bom, gente, nós estamos chegando na reta final da nossa apresentação. Queria agradecer aos nossos convidados. Queria passar a palavra rapidamente, só para considerações finais do Nivaldo e da Olívia.
Eu só queria convidar todos a visitarem no repositório, na plataforma do Congresso da UIA, vocês vão encontrar com facilidade no repositório, dentro de Diálogos com a Sociedade, O Mundo em Diálogo. Lá tem uma página, o Concurso Suíço, uma cultura de arquitetura, com todo o conteúdo da exposição, que realmente é primorosa, cuidadosa, e eu só posso aqui agradecer.
And you can find it in the repository there in the platform, in Dialogues with the Society, and you will find there this exhibit, of Swiss exhibit, and we can bring to Brazil here, us as Brazilian architects, these experiences that is so important. The Swiss competitions, they architectonical culture. I think that Olivia would like to say a few words, and also I'd like to thank Unfortunately, we couldn't bring the exhibit this year, but we're really looking forward to bringing it next year. We are 7 people with the support of so many people. It's not just Sergio and myself working on this, and this huge support that we're having here in Switzerland. It's interesting that the fact that we are launching this and to exhibit this in Brazil, this is being really important here, and we want to we wanted to have a tour of this exhibit here in Switzerland in Switzerland. And I'd also like to thank everyone here. It's 1 a.m. here, and we're still standing. Thank you, Beth, Nivaldo, Francesco, and everyone here, and Yudok and Lais. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be part of this live and watching this class on how to do things. It's really makes us feel that we need to do more competitions like this here in Brazil. And I hope that this exhibit that's going to happen next year, they should be educative not only for architects, but for the Brazilian society, so that we can demand to have more competitions. And we're very happy to be able to rely on this international experience. So thank you so much for all who have watched us, and I invite you to watch our exhibit here, and that we can really bring this international experience to our country. Thank you so much.